puzzle. Once you get those pieces that connect,
Yeah.
eventually you're going to figure out how to make this picture. And then once you put the picture together, it works.
So, when you come into connection with someone, you might be physically attracted, love their smile, their eyes, their hair, love the shoes on their feet, things like that. Like, oh, wow, you look really attractive.
Right.
But when you get to really know that person and you start to realize I was just more infatuated with the way you looked versus who you really are.
Right.
How would you advise someone or encourage someone to stay or leave?
With me personally, knowing what I know now and what I've been through, and like I said, we only can speak on our experiences.
Right.
A lot of times you are correct. A lot of times when we meet people because of the physical thing first.
Right.
Then we search for what we're really looking for because, that's what attracts you.
Right.
This person looks good. Oh, I like their teeth. I like the way they hair. And people think like that, I like the way the ears are. They have good skin. They have good, strong bone structure.
I mean, yeah.
And people think about stuff like that.
Light eyes.
Now, what I need is what type of mind does this person have?
Right.
And then that's when all the financial things come in. Then you start to see something deeper down the line. But when you first get into a relationship, it's 9 times out of 10 is strictly physical. Mm-hmm. You have a physical attraction. That's part of our makeup. That's part of who we are as humans.
Yeah.
We have physical attractions because nobody actually sits down and has a discussion about this and that and the other thing without seeing what this person looks like. Or if you don't see, because people do meet people online, there is something that you are attracted to, whether it's a picture or the thought of what this person is or how this person portrays themselves. Mm-hmm. Now, so when you get to the point where, you get to the point where you're past the physical stuff, you're past this, you guys that spend a couple of days together and you find out that, oh, I don't really want to be with this person. Mm-hmm. I've always been a fan of, you can always tell anybody anything if you tell them the right way.
Right.
So you have tact, and if you explain it to a person why or what this is, I believe that the other person will either reciprocate it or be upset for a second, and then once they get over the initial upsetment, they will take it as it is or move forward. Okay. So you really have to, especially in this day and age, the way things are today, everything is fast paced.
Right.
So everybody meets, they have sex, they do what they want to do, they party, and they keep it moving. The problem is nobody tells the other person this is what they want. Mm-hmm. So when we was young, if a girl kissed you, and I'm talking like, pre-teenage age, if a girl kissed you, you automatically thought, that's my girlfriend. Or if you write her a letter, do you like me? Or do you, check
off the box?
Yeah, check the box, right? And if she says yes, she's like, yeah, that's my girl for life.
Right.
It's not like that now. It's like it's like an unwritten rule, automatic. Yo, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna party. We're gonna do this. We're gonna have some fun, and if I sleep with you, I sleep with you. Hey, if I don't, hey, that's your loss. The problem is people do not understand that when you're doing this, regardless of how unattached that you try to make yourself, feelings get involved.
Right. Right.
Feelings become strong because you're there. You cannot help but to think or care about a person when you're dealing with a person. So my personal opinion and advice is, if you are in a relationship that you feel like you don't want to be, and it's at the start, and we're not talking about years and years down the line, but it's at the start, let that person know.
Right.
So that way you can give that person the option of either continue to stay with you or continue to deal with whatever situation you want to put that person into.
Right. So I'm going to tell you that I do believe as you're communicating, try to stay as open-minded as possible. Sometimes it's hard, especially if that person knows how to push your buttons. Sometimes you need to know how to pull back and all right, I know what you're doing. You're not going to get, take me over the edge.
Right.
So as of right now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about this logically as adults, and Let's move forward. So the other part of that too is that as we are trying to build up this particular relationship, which is really part of the foundation of our community when it comes down to it, because marriage and or the family bond is it starts at home first and it goes out.
Correct.
So as people are communicating, if you have great communication at home, hopefully you have great communication with your neighbor.
That's going to carry on.
And then hopefully you'll have the people at the corner and things like that. And then you start to create that sense of belonging. You create that sense of family with everyone up and down your block. And then hopefully it starts to filter to other blocks, which will ultimately be your neighborhood / community.
Right.
And hopefully that will also transcend this whole thing we're going through with race and everything else right now too. Because a lot of times, most of us, it's very hard to really come across a community right now where it's not integrated one way or the other.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you on that. But like I said, the thing is this. Let's take the sex out of the relationship, right?
Right.
If you take the sex out of the relationship, every relationship is basically the same.
Right.
If I'm a bigot, I'm gonna let you know I'm a bigot. At least by letting you know that I'm a bigot or I'm very racist, you have the option of dealing with me a certain way.
Right.
You know. So, and I'm really a strong believer of that. I believe that if you can tell a person about who you are, instead of everybody having this fake persona of who they want to be. It's nothing wrong with having a persona of who you want to be if you are truly trying to obtain that. But if you're just using that to use people, then it's wrong. You know, I and this is just from my experience. This is from me dealing. I'm 52.
Right.
So this is from me dealing with, from the time of almost birth, dealing with people,
right?
Because as children, our minds are very impressionable between the ages of 3 to about maybe 9. Then we start to get corrupt, because of our peers and how we hang out and things that we do. But as a child, we're so innocent, and we pick up so much stuff. It's just that when we get to preteen and teenage years, things start to go out the window with us because we're doing other things by now. Because the ones that are above us, are ahead of us, are showing us the wrong way sometimes.
Right.
But it's difficult to. I have an issue with. I can't smile on your face if I don't like you.
Okay.
I don't want to be fake like that. So if I don't like you, I'm not gonna treat you bad, but I may not deal with you a certain way.
Okay.
Until you give me reasons to deal with you the correct way.
Right.
So I'm going to either stay away from you. You may speak to me and I'll speak to you fine. I'll be cordial. But I'm not going to be here and smile on your face, invite you to the barbecue and all this stuff, and go to your house and hang out with you if I don't like you. If I don't feel like I can't get along with you. So by you knowing that about me and by me letting you know that, now we know how to deal with each other.
And see, now I think there lies the problem with, or a possible problem, not the problem, but a possible problem, situation, conflict when people want you to be because once you marry someone, you marry their family also, quote unquote.
Correct.
And so, what if you don't get along with your in-laws?
It happens. I mean,
if especially if your spouse, significant other, asks you like, "Hey, can you do this favor for me?" or whatever else, do you go and just be Oscar the Grouch sitting on the couch? What do you do?
But this is the other part of relationships. How much do you care for the person that you're going to this party with or going to this event with?
I mean, so I know for me at this time, I don't have to play that role. If I don't want to go, I don't want to go.
Right.
Now, there are also some other situations where I don't want to go. I have no problems with my in-laws.
Right.
I'm cool with mine.
Right.
It's just sometimes I may not feel well. Sometimes I just want to be quiet and still.
And sometimes you just don't want to go.
Right. So.
It has nothing to do with you don't like them.
Right.
You may just don't want to go.
So. But in a situation where those persons who do not get along with their in-laws, it seems like it's quite a bit. Yeah. And I understand that, hey, there's a superiority complex that some people might have. Hey, or a situation where someone is like, well, you're too nice, and they think they're better than me, and all that type of stuff. Well, if you carried yourself in a different way, or actually had a real conversation with someone, you might be able to understand that, hey, y'all from the same place.
Right.
So, and just to give y'all an example, especially since Arnold talked about relationships. So if you think about he and I, one, we're 10 years apart in age. Number two, granted, we're from West Philly, but we're from different parts of West Philly.
Right, correct.
And then the fact that, as he stated in a previous episode, how he was incarcerated and I was not.
Mm-hmm.
So, some people might be like, oh, y'all, y'all two different people, and y'all can't bang with each other and all that type of stuff. But that's so far from the truth.
Right.
If y'all would see us outside, we talk pretty much every day, and always talking about, we should be recording this. We should be recording this right now. But then here's the other part to that too. As we're sitting outside banging and talking to each other, we have almost the rest of our block out there with us too.
Right.
So it comes down to being able to speak to each other. Because as he said, he didn't like me at first because I kept parking in his parking spot. I didn't know, but
you know now.
But as time moves on, you start to understand, like, hey, this is what this person is really about. They're not doing anything maliciously or whatever else. It's just all about communication.
Exactly, and that's what it boils down to. If just like you said, as far as the race issue is concerned within the United States, period. If we can sit down and have a strong conversation, and I'm not talking about the people up top, I'm talking about us.
Right.
I'm talking about us in the neighborhoods, in the community. If we sit down and work there from this level, then it can trickle up instead of trickling down.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have You have to have a communication. You have to have some type of discussion. You have to have some type of where you guys can meet and be on the same page. Relationships are what you make them. If you want a bad relationship, you're going to make a bad relationship. If you don't want to be in a relationship, let that person know, because you may be holding that person back. That person may feel the same way you feel. Mm-hmm. So, talk about it. Then maybe even if you may think that you don't want to be in this relationship, and once you start talking about it, you can see, oh, I was really being a fool about this. Right. And I can work this through. Yeah. There's a couple things about different relationships that people go through. Like, I had heard a conversation about maybe a couple of days ago, and the brothers was talking about the different relationships and how certain couples marry for business.
Yes.
And I'm like, who marries for business unless you got some money? Which is understandable. But like I say, if you can come to the table and explain, this is how this relationship's going to be, this is what we're going to do, then you should have no issue with that. Then there's this thing about, should people stay married for the sake of their children? Mm-hmm. And to some degree, I do agree with that. But I also do agree with this. Why make each other miserable when you both can talk about it and co-parent together? Because there are plenty of people are out there in relationships right now that are not married, but they are raising their children together. Right. So this can be done if this is what you want to do. So I'm not telling nobody to go out there and just break up with and say that they want, I want to be a co-parent, because this takes a little bit of time. Right. You have to actually go through this and sit down and discuss what you want to do and how you want to do this. The key is this: communication. If you love this person well enough to let this person go, and you think this person will come back, then they'll come back to you. But if you care about this person and love this person, and you don't want anything to happen to this person, to see this person get hurt or whatever, or putting this person through anything, let it go. This might make both of y'all happy. Then you might have a real strong mutual respect for each other and a stronger bond and love for each other when you're raising your child or your children.
So in that communication, just make sure that on my end, that you don't hold it in, especially for before you go to bed, especially, because you don't want to be angry and pissed off and things like that and hold a grudge and all that type of stuff. there's ways that you could communicate